What happened last night, Ethan? And why am I wearing your shirt? Claire Whitmore's voice was barely above a whisper, but it stopped everything in the small kitchen. Ethan Cole stood beside the coffee maker with one hand wrapped around a chipped blue mug. He didn't flinch. He didn't smile. He simply looked at the woman who signed his paychecks, now standing barefoot in the hallway of his modest suburban home, wearing an oversized gray button-down that clearly belonged to him. Morning sunlight slipped through the blinds in pale golden stripes. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a lawn sprinkler clicked steadily across a neighboring yard. Claire looked nothing like the woman whose arrival could silence an executive conference room. Her blonde hair was loose and tangled from sleep, her face pale with confusion, and one hand pressed against her temple as she searched through memories that refused to return. "Where am I?" she asked. "My house." "Why?" Ethan set his mug down carefully. "Because you weren't safe to drive." Claire stared at him. Her eyes dropped again to the shirt. "And this?" Ethan opened his mouth, but a smaller voice reached them first. "Daddy, are you making pancakes or just coffee again?" Claire froze. 8-year-old Lily Cole appeared around the kitchen doorway wearing purple pajamas and mismatched socks, carrying a stuffed rabbit beneath one arm. She stopped when she saw Claire. Her curious blue eyes moved from the unfamiliar woman to her father's shirt, then back to Ethan. "Oh," Lily said. "Your boss woke up." Claire's expression changed instantly. "She knows who I am?" "Your picture is on the company website," Ethan said. Lily climbed onto a chair as though having her father's CO in the kitchen before 8 a.m. was merely another Saturday surprise. "Daddy slept on the couch," she announced. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second. "Lily, what? You did?" Claire said nothing. The tension in her shoulders eased, but only slightly. She looked past Ethan toward the living room. A folded blanket rested on the couch beside a pillow. His shoes sat neatly underneath it. Then her attention caught on a framed photograph above the bookshelf. Ethan stood in it several years younger, smiling beside a woman with gentle eyes, while a toddler Lily sat between them. Claire studied it longer than she meant to. "Your wife?" she asked quietly. Ethan's face softened. Her name was Hannah. Was one small word, carrying more weight than Claire expected. The kitchen suddenly felt different. Less like somewhere she had accidentally ended up and more like a life she had entered without permission. She turned back toward him. "Ethan, I don't remember leaving the gala." "I know. I don't remember getting here." "I know that too." Claire swallowed. "Then tell me exactly what happened." Ethan held her gaze, calm and steady. 12 hours earlier, Claire Whitmore had walked into a ballroom where 500 people feared disappointing her. By midnight, she could barely stand. And the only man who noticed she was in trouble was the employee she had never truly noticed at all. At 7:15 the previous evening, Ethan Cole had been 43 floors above downtown Chicago, tightening a loose cabinet hinge in a conference room most employees were afraid to enter without an invitation. The Whitmore Properties headquarters glittered around him in glass, steel, and expensive silence. Ethan preferred the silence. At 38, he had learned that quiet was not emptiness. Sometimes it was dignity. Sometimes it was survival. His phone vibrated inside his work jacket. "Lily." He answered immediately. "Hey, kiddo. Did you remember tomorrow is pancake day?" "I remember. Chocolate chips. That sounds suspiciously like dessert." "Dad." Ethan smiled. "Chocolate chips." After his wife Hannah died 4 years earlier, promises had become sacred things in the Cole household. Big promises were difficult. Small ones mattered more. Breakfast on Saturdays. Reading before bed. Never missing Lily's school concerts. Ethan could not give his daughter everything, but he could give her the comfort of knowing that when her father said he would be there, he would be there. He ended the call, slipped the phone away, and returned to work. Downstairs, the annual Whitmore Foundation Gala was already beginning. Black sedans rolled beneath the hotel canopy across the street. Executives crossed the lobby in tailored suits and evening dresses while employees hurried between elevators carrying flowers, tablets, and last-minute seating charts. Ethan was supposed to finish 2 maintenance requests and leave through the service entrance by 8. He had no reason to attend the gala. People like Ethan kept buildings running. People like Claire Whitmore owned them. He had seen her many times, usually from a distance. She moved through headquarters with the controlled confidence of someone carrying decisions worth millions of dollars. Conversations straightened when she approached. Managers checked their notes twice. Claire rarely raised her voice because she never needed to. Cole. Ethan turned. His supervisor, Daniel Mercer, approached holding a radio. Ballroom lighting panel is acting up. They need someone downstairs. Ethan glanced at his watch. How long? 10 minutes if we are lucky. Ethan picked up his toolbox. Then let us be lucky. The ballroom smelled of fresh roses, polished wood, and expensive perfume. Crystal lights burned overhead. A jazz trio played near the stage while nearly 500 guests filled the room with restrained laughter. Ethan crossed behind the service curtain, invisible by design. Then he saw Claire. She stood beneath the lights in a dark blue evening dress, surrounded by board members and donors. Perfect posture, perfect smile, perfect control. But Ethan noticed something the others did not. When everyone laughed, Claire smiled half a second late. When someone touched her elbow, she stepped away. When her phone lit up, the color quietly left her face. She read the message twice. Then she locked the screen and stared across the crowded ballroom, as if suddenly realizing there was nobody there she trusted. Ethan looked away. Other people's pain deserved privacy. He repaired the lighting panel, closed his toolbox, and headed toward the service corridor. Behind him, applause rose as Claire walked toward the stage. She looked powerful beneath those lights. Untouchable, almost. Ethan did not know that before the night was over, that same woman would be unable to find her own coat, unable to remember her address clearly, and surrounded by people more concerned with protecting the company than protecting her. And Ethan Cole, the employee she had barely noticed, would be the one person who refused to leave her alone. By 10:30 that night, the applause had become noise to Claire Whitmore. She had delivered the speech, thanked the donors, smiled for photographs, and raised more than $2 million for the foundation, yet none of it could erase the message glowing on her phone. The man she had once planned to marry had handed confidential company information to a rival investment group. Worse, 2 members of her own board had known. Claire stood near the ballroom windows, looking down at Chicago lights scattered across the darkness like distant stars. "Another drink, Ms. Whitmore?" a server asked. Claire hesitated. Yes. 1 became 2. 2 became enough that the edges of the evening began to soften. Claire was not celebrating. She was trying, unsuccessfully, to quiet the humiliation of discovering that trust had once again been treated like a weakness. Across the ballroom, Ethan had finished repairing the lighting panel, but Daniel asked him to remain because a service elevator had begun making an unusual sound. Ethan stayed, quietly, patiently. By 11:45, most guests were leaving. Ethan crossed the ballroom carrying his toolbox when he noticed Claire sitting alone near a marble column. Her perfect posture was gone. Her coat rested several feet away on an empty chair. "Ms. Whitmore?" Ethan asked. Claire looked up slowly. "Do I know you?" "Ethan Cole. Facilities." She studied his face as though searching through hundreds of employee names. "Ethan." "Yes, ma'am." "Do not call me ma'am. It makes me feel 90. For the first time that evening, Ethan almost smiled. Then a man approached from behind them. Grant Holloway, Senior Vice President of Acquisitions. Ethan recognized him from executive meetings. Grant picked up Claire's coat. "There you are. I have been looking everywhere for you." Claire frowned. "I am fine. You are exhausted. Come on. My driver is downstairs." "No." Grant paused. "Claire, do not be difficult." Ethan's expression changed. Not dramatically. His shoulders simply became still. Claire reached for her coat, missed it, and steadied herself against the chair. "I said no." 3 words. Quiet. Clear. "Enough." Grant lowered his voice. "This is company business, Cole." Ethan looked at Claire, not Grant. "Ms. Whitmore, is there someone you want me to call?" She searched her purse for her phone. The screen was black. "Dead. Family." Claire gave a tired laugh, without humor. "That is complicated." Grant exhaled impatiently. "I will take care of her." Ethan finally met his eyes. She said no. The ballroom seemed strangely large now. Workers folded tablecloths in the distance. Glasses clicked softly onto trays. The jazz musicians had already packed away their instruments, leaving only the low hum of the ventilation system. Grant stared at Ethan. "You understand who you are talking to?" "Yes." Ethan's voice remained calm. "Do you?" Claire looked between them, embarrassed by her own condition but alert enough to understand what Ethan was doing. He was not claiming authority over her. He was giving it back to her. "Claire," Ethan said gently, "where do you want to go?" She closed her eyes, trying to focus. Home. What address? Silence. Claire opened her eyes again. For the first time all night, fear replaced frustration. I cannot remember. Ethan glanced toward the nearly empty ballroom, then at the woman everyone believed had complete control over everything. All right, he said. Then we find another safe option. Grant scoffed. You are risking your job. Ethan picked up Claire's coat and placed it carefully around her shoulders. Maybe. Then he looked at Grant with the same quiet dignity he brought to every ordinary day. But she is not risking her safety. Ethan tried every reasonable option before making the decision that would change both of their lives. He borrowed a charger from the hotel desk and powered Claire's phone long enough to search her contacts, but every likely number went unanswered. Her executive assistant was on a flight to New York. The emergency contact listed under family connected to an old number no longer in service. Ethan even asked Claire whether she wanted a hotel room nearby. She shook her head immediately. No hotel. All right. No strangers. All right. And not Grant. Ethan glanced across the lobby, where Grant Holloway stood near the revolving doors watching them with obvious irritation. Definitely not Grant. Outside, cold November air swept between the buildings, carrying the smell of rain from the dark Chicago streets. Ethan helped Claire into the passenger seat of his 8-year-old Ford Explorer, fastened her seat belt only after asking permission, then placed her purse safely at her feet. He kept the radio low. He kept both hands on the wheel. Most importantly, he asked nothing she was not capable of answering. After 20 minutes, Claire finally spoke. You have a daughter. Ethan glanced at her. Lily. She is 8. Who is with her? Mrs. Alvarez next door. She has known Lily since she was born. Claire rested her head against the seat. You trust people. A few. That must be nice. There was something unexpectedly sad in the way she said it. By the time Ethan reached his quiet neighborhood, Claire had fallen asleep. Mrs. Alvarez was still awake when he knocked on her door. Ethan explained only that a co-worker was unwell and needed a safe place for the night. He never mentioned Claire's position. He never turned her vulnerability into a story. Inside his house, Claire woke enough to walk on her own, but almost immediately became sick on the front of her expensive dress. Embarrassment flooded her face. I am sorry. It is clothing, Ethan said. It can be cleaned. He placed a clean towel, a pair of sweatpants, and his oversized gray button-down outside the bathroom door. There are fresh clothes here. Change only if you want to. I will be in the kitchen. The bathroom door clicked shut. Ethan walked away. No lingering. No questions. No audience. That was the difference between decency and performance. True character rarely announces itself because most of its important choices happen when nobody is watching. 20 minutes later, Claire emerged wearing the gray shirt and carrying her folded dress. Ethan had prepared the guest room, which had once been his bedroom before Hannah died. He had moved into the smaller room afterward because some memories were easier to honor from a distance. Claire noticed the photograph on the dresser. Hannah holding toddler Lily beneath an autumn maple tree. Your wife? Claire asked. Yes. Where is she? Ethan was quiet for a moment. She passed away 4 years ago. Claire lowered her eyes. I am sorry. Thank you. She studied the photograph again. Why did you never marry again? Ethan looked toward the dark window. Some promises take time to become memories. Claire seemed to understand more than he had said. Her voice softened. People leave when things become difficult. Ethan pulled the blanket back on the bed and stepped toward the doorway. Some do. Claire looked at him. And the others? Ethan paused beneath the hallway light. The right ones stay until you are safe. He closed the door halfway, leaving it open enough for her to call if she needed help. Then he took a pillow to the couch, set his alarm for 6:30, and slept beneath an old blanket while the most powerful woman he had ever met rested 30 feet away, protected by a man who wanted absolutely nothing from her. Morning returned Claire to the kitchen, to Ethan's gray shirt, and to the question she was almost afraid to ask. Tell me exactly what happened. Ethan leaned against the counter, keeping several feet between them. You became sick after we got here. I gave you a towel and clean clothes. You changed in the bathroom by yourself. You slept in the guest room. I slept on the couch. Claire watched him carefully. That is all. That is all. You expect me to believe nothing happened? Ethan's expression did not harden, but something quiet changed behind his eyes. I expect you to believe whatever the facts give you reason to believe. Before Claire could answer, Lily carried a plate toward the table and pointed toward the living room. Dad really did sleep there. I woke up around 2 because I wanted water. Ethan gave his daughter a gentle look. Thank you, detective. Lily smiled. You are welcome. Claire looked at the folded blanket, the pillow, then back at Ethan. Memory returned in small pieces. The hotel lobby. Cold air. Ethan asking permission before helping with her seatbelt. His voice outside the bathroom door. Fresh clothes placed where she could reach them without anyone entering. The photograph of Hannah. None of those memories contained pressure. None contained expectation. Only boundaries. Only respect. Claire lowered her eyes. I am sorry. Ethan poured coffee into a second mug. For what? For assuming the worst. You woke up somewhere unfamiliar with missing pieces from last night. Asking questions is reasonable. He placed the mug on the counter rather than handing it directly to her. Even now, he gave her space. Claire noticed. Powerful men had spent years trying to impress her. They remembered her favorite restaurants, sent expensive gifts, praised her decisions, and laughed too loudly at her jokes. Ethan Cole had done something far rarer. He had protected her dignity when there was nobody around to reward him for it. Lily climbed onto her chair. Do bosses eat pancakes? Claire blinked. Sometimes. Chocolate chip ones. I suppose very successful bosses probably do. Lily nodded seriously. Then you can have 2. A laugh escaped Claire before she could stop it. It sounded unfamiliar in her own ears. Ethan turned toward the stove, hiding the beginning of a smile. For several minutes, the three of them occupied the same ordinary kitchen while butter warmed in a skillet and morning sunlight brightened the worn wooden table. There were no assistants, no board members, no cameras. Claire could not remember the last breakfast that had felt this uncomplicated. Eventually, her phone came back to life on Ethan's charger. Dozens of missed calls appeared. Emails followed. Messages from executives. Her expression changed with every notification. The world outside Ethan's house had found her again. Claire placed the phone face down. Why did you help me? Ethan looked over his shoulder. Because you needed help. You knew who I was. Yes. You could have called someone and made it their problem. Ethan turned off the stove. You are not a problem, Claire. The use of her first name caught her completely off guard. His voice remained gentle. Last night you were a person who needed somewhere safe. That was enough. Claire stared at him. Her entire career had taught her that favors created debts and kindness usually arrived carrying an invoice. Yet this man wanted neither money nor influence nor gratitude. She picked up her purse and prepared to leave, but at the front door she turned back. Ethan. Yes. Thank you. He nodded once. Take care of yourself. Claire stepped into the cold morning, carrying something she had not arrived with. Trust. She did not know that before noon, a photograph from the previous night would begin circulating through Whitmore Properties, and Ethan's simple act of grace would be rewritten into something neither of them recognized. By 11:40 that morning, Ethan's kindness had become office gossip. The photograph appeared first in a private employee group, then moved through text messages and social media with the speed of a story nobody bothered to verify. It showed Ethan outside the hotel with one hand holding Claire's coat while she walked beside him toward his Ford Explorer. The angle made the moment look secretive. The caption made it worse. By noon, someone had added another photograph of Ethan's vehicle leaving the hotel garage. Cole, conference room. Now, Daniel Mercer's voice carried none of its usual warmth. Ethan set down his wrench and followed him upstairs. Conversation stopped as he passed. Some employees looked curious. Others looked amused. Ethan kept walking. Quiet dignity was easy when people respected you. The real test came when they did not. Inside the conference room sat 2 human resources executives, Grant Holloway and Claire. She had changed into a charcoal business suit, her blonde hair neatly arranged, every trace of the vulnerable woman from breakfast hidden behind the controlled expression of a chief executive officer. Grant slid a printed photograph across the table. Care to explain this? Ethan did not touch it. I drove Ms. Whitmore somewhere safe because she was unable to drive. To your home, Grant said. Yes. And she remained there overnight. Yes. One of the human resources executives cleared her throat. Mr. Cole, you understand why this creates a serious appearance problem. Ethan looked toward Claire. She said nothing. That silence hurt more than Grant. Claire watched the security footage once, then twice. By the third time, She had stopped looking for reasons to doubt Ethan and started noticing every reason she should have trusted him. The video showed Grant approaching her near the marble column, taking her coat, and insisting that his driver would take her home. It showed Claire refusing. It showed Ethan standing several feet away until she repeated herself. Then came the moment Claire remembered only as a blur. Grant stepped closer and spoke to Ethan. There was no audio, but Ethan's posture remained calm, while Claire clearly shook her head. Another camera captured Ethan at the front desk borrowing a phone charger. A third showed him speaking with the night manager while Claire sat safely in the lobby. Nothing secretive, nothing improper, nothing that matched the rumors now circling the company. Claire leaned back in her chair. "Who requested copies of the original lobby footage?" she asked the security director over the phone. "Mr. Holloway's office contacted us this morning." Claire became still. "Before Human Resources contacted you?" "Almost 2 hours before." That detail changed everything. Grant had not merely reacted to the photographs. He had known there was more footage and moved first. Claire ended the call and requested the hotel's access records, then called her legal counsel. By late afternoon, the pattern was impossible to ignore. The first photograph had been sent anonymously to an industry gossip account from a temporary email address created that morning. Internal network logs showed that the account had been accessed from a guest wireless connection associated with a device regularly used by Grant's executive assistant. It was not final proof of who had pressed send, but it was enough to demand answers. Claire stared through the glass wall of her office at hundreds of employees working below. Somewhere among them, Ethan's reputation had been reduced to whispers because he had done what everyone else had been too cautious, too ambitious, or too selfish to do. He had protected her. She had protected the company. The difference suddenly felt unbearable. At 6:20, Claire drove herself to Ethan's neighborhood. No driver, no assistant, no polished speech prepared by public relations. Ethan opened the door wearing jeans and a dark sweater. Surprise crossed his face, then disappeared. "Claire, I know what happened." "So do I." "No, I mean I know who pushed the story." Ethan glanced toward the kitchen, where Lily was doing homework. He stepped onto the porch and quietly closed the door behind him. Cold air moved through the bare trees. "Grant," he asked. Claire nodded. "The evidence points toward his office. We are still confirming everything." Ethan looked across the street rather than at her. "Then confirm it." "I came to apologize." "You do not need to apologize for asking questions." "I am not apologizing for asking questions." Claire's voice tightened. "I am apologizing because when everyone else questioned your character, I let my fears speak louder than what I already knew about you." Ethan finally looked at her. Claire continued, "I can restore your position immediately. I can arrange compensation. I can make sure your record is cleared." Ethan shook his head. "That is not what I need." "Then tell me what you need." His answer came quietly. "Respect." Claire said nothing. "Respect is not compensation, Claire. You cannot give it to someone after hurting them and call the account settled." The words carried no anger. That made them harder to hear. Claire lowered her eyes. "You are right." Ethan studied her for a moment. "What happens next matters more than what you say on my porch." Then he opened the door and returned to Lily. Claire remained outside beneath the porch light, finally understanding the lesson power had never taught her. Money could repair damage. Authority could correct a record. But redemption required something harder. It required the courage to stand in the same room where someone had been humiliated and tell the truth just as publicly. The next morning, every department at Whitmore Properties received the same message: mandatory company meeting. At 10 o'clock. No explanation. No agenda. By 9:55, hundreds of employees filled the headquarters auditorium while remote offices joined by video. Ethan was not there. His administrative leave had not yet been lifted, and Claire wanted the truth spoken before she asked him to return. Grant Holloway sat in the front row with his arms folded, his expression controlled. At exactly 10, Claire walked onto the stage. There was no music, no introduction. She carried no notes. Yesterday, an employee of this company was placed on administrative leave because of assumptions surrounding his conduct after our foundation gala. The room became still. Grant shifted in his chair. Claire continued, "That employee is Ethan Cole, and before another rumor is repeated, everyone here deserves the facts." The screen behind her displayed time-stamped security footage from the hotel lobby. Claire narrated only what the images proved. Ethan had offered assistance after she became impaired. He had tried to contact people she trusted. He had asked whether she wanted a hotel. He had respected her refusal. Most importantly, he had intervened only after Claire clearly rejected Grant's offer to take her home. A second recording showed Ethan borrowing a charger. A third showed him waiting several feet away while Claire sat in the lobby. At no point did Mr. Cole exploit my condition, Claire said. At no point did he request money, advancement, or special treatment. Grant stood. Claire, this should be handled privately. She looked directly at him. That opportunity ended when a private act of kindness was turned into public humiliation. Nobody moved. Claire then explained that the company's internal review had traced the circulation of misleading material to activity associated with Grant's office. The investigation was continuing, and Grant would be removed from active duties while independent counsel completed its review. Grant's face lost color. You cannot seriously believe a maintenance employee over a senior vice president. Claire's answer came without hesitation. I believe evidence over titles. The auditorium fell silent. Not polite silence. Not corporate silence. The kind that arrives when status suddenly loses its power to control the truth. Claire looked across the room, and for the first time that morning, her voice softened. There is one more thing. She paused. I was not fully sober when Ethan Cole protected my dignity. Several people lowered their eyes, but I was completely sober when I failed to protect his. No one whispered now. Claire let the words remain where they belonged. I allowed fear, reputation, and corporate pressure to make me hesitate when a decent man's character was being questioned. That failure is mine. Mr. Cole's suspension is rescinded immediately. His record will reflect that he acted responsibly and with respect. Across town, Ethan sat at his kitchen table while Daniel streamed the meeting on a laptop. Lily sat beside him eating cereal. When Claire spoke those final words, Ethan did not smile. He simply exhaled, as though something heavy had finally been set down. Lily looked up at him. She told everybody the truth. Ethan nodded. Yes. Does that mean you won? Ethan considered the question. No, sweetheart. Then what does it mean? He looked at Claire on the screen, standing alone before an entire company and accepting responsibility when she could easily have hidden behind her title. It means somebody chose to make things right. Then Claire looked directly into the camera. Ethan, if you are watching, I owe you more than an apology. I owe you the same respect you gave me when nobody else was watching. For several seconds, the auditorium remained completely silent. And in that silence, Ethan understood that justice did not always arrive with punishment. Sometimes it arrived as truth spoken clearly enough that nobody could pretend not to hear it. 3 weeks later, Ethan was back at Whitmore Properties, but something had changed that no company announcement could measure. People who once whispered now met his eyes. Some apologized. Others simply treated him with the respect they should have offered before knowing his story. Ethan accepted neither admiration nor resentment as a new identity. He returned to work the same way he had always worked, quietly, carefully, without needing anyone to notice. Claire did not promote him as a reward. She did something harder. She asked what he actually wanted. Ethan requested a review of the facilities department, better training opportunities for hourly employees, and schedules that gave parents more flexibility when possible. Claire listened. Some changes took weeks. Others would take months. But for once, a promise inside Whitmore Properties was not made for publicity. On a cold Saturday evening, Ethan was stirring tomato sauce in his kitchen when the doorbell rang. Lily raced toward the door. I will get it. Ethan wiped his hands and followed. Claire stood on the porch wearing jeans, a cream sweater, and a winter coat, with no driver waiting at the curb and no assistant holding her phone. In her hands was a neatly folded gray shirt. I believe this belongs to you, she said. Ethan looked at the shirt, then at her. You could have mailed it. Claire smiled. I know. Lily appeared between them. Are you staying for dinner? Claire glanced at Ethan. Only if your dad says it is all right. Ethan stepped aside. We have enough spaghetti. Then I would like to stay. The evening was ordinary in ways Claire had once forgotten could be beautiful. Lily talked about school. Ethan complained that his garlic bread was slightly burned. Claire laughed when Lily informed her that billion-dollar real estate decisions were probably easier than fifth-grade math, even though Lily herself was only in third grade and had no evidence for the claim. There were no cameras, no board members, no carefully chosen words, just warmth from the oven, the smell of garlic and tomato sauce, and 3 people learning that trust was built through small moments repeated honestly. Then Lily reached for her glass and accidentally knocked it over. Water spilled across the table and onto Claire's sweater. Oh no! Lily's eyes widened. I am so sorry. Claire looked down, then laughed. It is clothing. It can be cleaned. Ethan recognized his own words and smiled. He handed her a towel. I might have something dry. A few minutes later, Claire returned to the kitchen wearing the same gray shirt she had brought back. Ethan stared at her for a second. That shirt again? Claire looked down at it, then back at him. Better memories this time. Lily grinned and placed 3 clean plates on the table. Nobody said what the moment meant. They did not need to. Months later, Claire would still remember that evening more clearly than galas attended by hundreds of powerful people. She had spent years believing safety came from control, respect came from titles, and trust had to be negotiated like a contract. Ethan had taught her something quieter. Dignity was what remained when nobody was applauding. Grace was what you offered when there was nothing to gain. And second chances rarely arrived with trumpets. Sometimes they arrived at an ordinary front door, carrying a folded shirt and enough humility to knock. Ethan looked across the table at Claire laughing with Lily, and for the first time since Hannah's death, the future did not feel like a betrayal of the past. It felt like permission to keep living. Outside, snow began falling softly over the quiet Chicago street. Inside, 3 plates waited beneath warm kitchen light. And where there had once been loneliness, misunderstanding, and silence, there was finally a different kind of silence now. The peaceful kind that comes when nobody has to prove they belong.